Hello, everyone. This is Scott Comey, and I am here with Adam Contos, the CEO of RE/MAX LLC. And this is Turn the Dial podcast. And Adam, normally I get to hear you on your podcast, broadcasting live from the 12th floor of the RE/MAX World headquarters in Denver. But tell everybody where we're at today.
I love it, Scott. So we are actually in Maui, in Wailea, in Hawaii. So we've got the RE/MAX PBS Premier Brokers Summit and Catalyst event going on out here, and you are one of the invitees. It's an invite-only event to our very best brokerages, and we're honored to have you here in this wonderful tropical environment.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it is. I tried to get us outside, actually, but I thought there'd be too many distractions. So here we are inside the room where we do the event.
Yeah, we're sitting in this giant ballroom full of tables and chairs. It's just the two of us around your podcast table. This is really cool.
That's right. So you have a podcast, as I mentioned, Start With a Win. This is a podcast that my wife Renee and I listen to all the time. We've referred it multiple times, not only to our agents and our loan officers, but also on this show. And so tell us, how long have you been doing that podcast for, and what kind of made you start that podcast?
Well, first of all, thank you for listening. It's always nice to talk to people that listen to the work that you create. And as you do this more, it becomes more of a passion, more of a giving, things like that. But we started to Start With a Win about a year and a couple months ago, and we just hit our year episode that we put out. We do it once a week, our 52nd episode. And then we do a couple little start with quick wins is what we call them. So they go out like every other week, just a little 1 to 5 minute piece. But it's a blast. And I did this because I was so heavily involved in kind of personal growth and, getting better myself and using that to increase my business and helping my customers, that I thought, why not share this with other people? So that's really the kind of the impetus of starting that particular project. And it's just kind of grown from there. I was in Europe the other day, and
That's crazy.
People are going, hey, I listened to your podcast. I'm going, what? This is crazy. So
That's
a lot of fun. And congratulations on doing yours. This is fantastic, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier to you, off the microphones here, you were our inspiration to get this going. So thank you. We have a lot of information that we like to share, my wife and I, with our coaching programs and stuff that we do. So it's become a vehicle similar to probably what you use it for, to just get some of this good stuff out for free, right, for folks.
Yeah, if you can get between people's ears, they actually will listen. They want to gain information from each other. That's human nature. And so many people just kind of sit back and read a book or whatever, but they don't share any of the wisdom that they come up with. So the stuff that you guys do, you and Renee, is awesome. You've done, started some Facebook groups and RE/MAX, the healthy living and all that other stuff, and do so much with that. And it's nice that you get to share through multi-channel resources with other people. So this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, the title, Start With a Win, I know the definition or the meaning behind that title, but kind of give the listeners a little bit of where that title came from.
I'm one of those people that gets up early to go get stuff done. So I was talking to my podcast producer, Mark, and I said, we got to come up with a name for this. And he goes, well, you're kind of the Start With a Win guy, so let's try that. And we happened to be able to get startwithawin.com, and it just worked. So I love getting out of bed, starting with a win, going to the gym, getting things done, because frankly, I think you can get most of the productive things done in your day by noon. And if you look at it that way, if you're intentional in your time, that makes a big difference in your life, your relationships, your business, your health, things like that. So that's where it came from.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find myself making my bed more frequently since I've been listening to your podcast.
All right.
It's little things like that make a huge difference.
That's right.
Okay. So CEO, you are CEO of RE/MAX LLC. There's kind of it's an umbrella of multiple companies underneath that.
Yeah. We've got 3 companies total: RE/MAX, Model Mortgage, and Booge, the technology company.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're loving Booge so far. This great technology company that RE/MAX acquired 20 months ago or more, something like that.
It was probably about 2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah. Right on. And so you being the CEO, you've been CEO of RE/MAX LLC for a little over 2 years. Am I got my math right, or about 2 years?
It's coming up on 2 years here
Coming up on
pretty
2 years.
soon. Yeah.
Right on. Now, I've been able to see you this whole time because I've been with RE/MAX and now obviously Model Mortgage as well during that whole 2 years. And as CEO, I've seen you do a lot of, for one, you're younger than I would say a lot of other CEOs. And you've got a lot of unique things that you do, non-traditional to what I think most people would view in a CEO. And I love them. And you're all over social media, for example. You do a ton of video, in fact, a ton of live video even. And so I just want to ask you, and then, by the way, I know yesterday Dave Liniger, founder of Remax LLC, mentioned, and you don't shave. So non-traditional CEO, talk to us about why do you like to be unique?
Well, I mean, the beard is just kind of, it's a fun thing. I've never had one, so I thought I'd try it. But the rest of it, I like to be digitally transparent. I think people want to do business with companies where they know the leader of the company or who's running the show financially, responsible for the shareholder value of the organization as well as the experience of the customers. And I think if you understand who I am, what I'm about, what my why is, the values of the organization, then there's no question as to what's behind the curtain. So many CEOs, so many business leaders, and you're right, particularly in the public sector. We're a publicly traded company, so we have all sorts of, it's called Reg FD, insider knowledge, different rules like that we have to follow. So I have to kind of navigate that, but at the same time, that is what blockades so many of my peers in the public company sector from being digitally transparent. Nobody wants to be on social media because they're like, oh, somebody will use this against me. But if you're a good person and you do the right thing, what do you got to worry about is the way I look at it.
Right. Well, and as a leader, I will tell you that everything that I've been seeing you do has made me feel like, as somebody much lower in the company than you, very approachable. And I think that is a good model that I have been instilling upon myself inside my own company, is to just be more available. And that's, I think, and approachable. And so that's been working.
Well, it's funny you say that because all of what we're doing is based on a psychology concept called a parasocial relationship. So a parasocial relationship is a one-way relationship where realistically you might see somebody on social media, you might see them on video, listen to them on a podcast or on the radio or television, whatever it might be. And the more you are exposed to them, the more you build in your brain what is similar to a human-to-human relationship with them. So
right.
That started kind of during the soap opera era.
When
you'd walk into the family room and maybe your mom or somebody's watching the soaps and the soap stars are there.
Yep.
Then those soap stars are on the front page of the tabloids or the cash register checkout stand at the grocery store. And everybody's so interested in them, but they've never met them. So it's interesting because that's a psychological concept where you start to believe in somebody like that. It's a celebrity concept.
Right.
They take advantage of it so much. But ultimately, there's no difference between somebody being in a movie and somebody being in a podcast or somebody being on a video on YouTube or Facebook or something like that. When you're exposed to it enough, you believe in that person. Now, if that person's attached to a business, we call that influencer marketing.
Right.
You're more apt to utilize that business or service in order to accomplish your goals because you have the trust in that service or business because of your relationship, that parasocial relationship with that person.
Awesome. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally
so that's really, I'm not doing this because I want people to do business with Remax. I want people to do this because I want them to understand that Remax is an amazing company with great people, and that's why they should do business with Remax.
Nice. Very well said. I'm going to switch the topic here just a little bit. So fear, we're going to talk about fear for a second. In a past episode of ours on Turn the Dial, my wife Renee and I had almost a whole episode on fear. And it's ironic that yesterday you were up on stage talking about that very topic. And so tell us a little bit about what fear means to you.
I'm a firm believer that we only operate in life with two emotions. Those two emotions are fear. So fear is basically your speculation on the unknown. And the other one is love. Love is unconditional giving. So when you tell somebody something, their default emotion for that particular item is fear. Now that creates a fear response when they hear something that they default to fear from, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So like, let's say you walk up to somebody and you say, hey, I need to tell you something. I mean, they're going to default to, oh my gosh, what is it?
Right.
Instead of, I love it when you share things with me. So,
Oh, good point.
fear is a default. Love is intentional. You have to practice aggressively utilizing that particular emotion in order for that to be how you live your life. Now, it's interesting because when you take a look at fear itself, fear prevents us from doing things. Fear causes us to create excuses. So any excuse you come up with or any way you rationalize not doing something, guess what? That's a fear response. So, like you get up in the morning, you're like, oh, I don't want to go do that. I hope it's snowing outside or it's raining or it's cold or whatever it might be. You're operating in a fear environment right there because you're trying to rationalize your way out of doing something because you're not wanting to. But I mean, how do you get through that? How do you get up and make your bed in the morning? Is you have to intentionally say, Scott, make your bed.
Right.
So, fear drives everything we do. It's either fear or love. And if you intentionally operate in that emotion of love all the time, you're in a giving mode. And when you give to yourself, when you give to others, when you when you practice gratitude, things like that, you rewire your brain to happiness. Right. Fear does not allow you to operate in a mode of happiness. It's a survival mode. So I think this is so much to do with success in life,
right? With
relationships, with yourself personally, your health, your exercise, things like that. But ultimately, it's how you should run your business as well and run your relationships, because those are the people who become successful.
Right. Getting out of their comfort zone.
You got it. And it's uncomfortable for everybody. Don't think that, that person's so good at that. You know what? They're just as uncomfortable as you are. They're probably more uncomfortable because they're willing to get out of that comfort zone and face the fear of doing it and the fear of other people's opinions of them doing it, which is called FOPO.
Right.
So
right.
We talked about that yesterday. So
we did.
That's the number one reason why a salesperson does not go out and talk to more potential customers is FOPO. Yeah. They're afraid of what somebody's opinion is going to be, because these people are not going to attack them and kill them or anything like that.
Right.
They're going to judge them. And that is the worst type of fear we face, is the fear of being judged.
Right. Yeah, FOPO is definitely I took a lot of notes on that yesterday. It's a cool concept to talk about. And what I found in terms of overcoming fear is if you face your fear head on, the more you do something that you're afraid of, the less fearful you get at it. So whether it be calling your prospects as a salesperson, door knocking, or going to the gym, or whatever the case might be personally, right? So, yeah.
Right. And you know what makes it even easier is when you deploy gratitude in the process. Because if you're happy, if you're making that pivot from fear or, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to do this, to that position of smiling and convincing yourself, because you do have to convince yourself to an extent that I enjoy what I'm doing, put a smile on your face, you will rewire your brain to believe it.
Right. That's awesome. So I got a question for you about fear.
Sure.
What is something that you are afraid of? What is one of your biggest fears?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm just like any other human being. I'm fearful of other people's opinions, but I push through it.
Sure.
I don't like spiders. But I'm cool with snakes.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think you're usually like one or the other.
Yeah, I'm the opposite actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, my wife's a snake, anti-snake person. I'm an anti-spider person, but I don't know. I mean, I've faced some pretty intense fear in my life, in my law enforcement career, things like that.
Right.
And it's interesting because when you look at it and go, I'm here for the right reason, a lot of that fear dissipates. But there's certain roller coasters I'm not a fan of. I like a lot of roller coasters, but not some of them where they get really freaky. But
nice.
Other than that, there's not a whole heck of a lot.
Okay. Well, one of my fears is I'm afraid of heights.
Okay.
And so one of the things I told, and I, if you want to do something, you want to have somebody force you to do something, put it out into the public, right? Tell everybody, tell them on a podcast, tell them in front of a meeting of your peers. And so I made the mistake or it was a good moment in my life, I guess, maybe, that I actually said to everyone in my company that I'm afraid of heights and therefore I should skydive. And so guess what I'm doing in a week here in Hawaii?
Oh man, good for you. I actually grew up afraid of heights. So I couldn't get on a chairlift to go skiing. Yeah, climbing a ladder freaked me out.
Jeez, yeah.
And fear of heights is actually one of those things that we program ourselves.
Right.
You're not born with fear of heights. So you're born with a fear of falling.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I think it's falling, starvation, and being abandoned are natural fears. But you're not really fearful of being up high to begin with. So
sure.
I had to overcome that I joined the rock climbing club when I was in high school.
Interesting. Okay.
And, we're in Colorado. We have mountains. Yeah. We go rock climbing, stuff like that. And so I did that for 4 years. I ended up becoming the president of the club.
Wow.
And spent as much time above ground as I possibly could to try and overcome that. And it actually kind of worked. So it was kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, I was scared to death of heights when I was growing up.
Wow, that's cool. See, you faced it head on.
Yeah,
right?
You got to go
climbing club.
You got to go after it, man.
Right on. Well, we're going to wrap things up here with a couple final questions. What is the best advice that you've ever been given in let's say in the business world?
The best advice I've ever been given in the business world: stay hungry and stay humble.
Nice.
So, two things that every business leader, really every business operator needs to be hungry. You got to be hungry to grow your business. You got to be hungry to get up and not coast and go after more.
Right.
That's really, we have to have a mindset of abundance. We have to continue to grow our business. We have to continue to give more to our customer base, and then our businesses will grow through those things. And staying humble. Mm-hmm. Everybody comes from humble beginnings. I don't care who you are. You were born to this earth, and you get to shape how you think and talk and things like that. And you got to be humble, which means you have to deploy gratitude. You have to be thankful, grateful, and just put people in front of you. And then, you know what? They'll grab you and they'll shove you out front because you're humble and you're helpful and you're kind. So those stay hungry and stay humble are two of the best pieces of business advice I've ever gotten.
That's awesome. And now that's been some of the best advice I've ever gotten. So thank you for sharing that. What about a book that you've read recently for our audience here? So we recently heard you recommend the book Atomic Habits,
yep.
which I then assigned in we do an elite group training in my company, and I assigned that as a reading that we're currently in right now, so that we read these books and then we talk about them at the end. So we're right in the middle of that one. But what's another good book that you recommend for us?
A good friend of mine just released a book a week or two ago. His name's Mark Sanborn, and the book is called The Intention Imperative. And it's a leadership book. It's not a very long read, but really what it does is it gets you to look at three different concepts from a different perspective, three different leadership concepts. I'm not going to give them away. I'd love for you to go to intentionimperative.com and check out the book and see what Mark has to say about it. He's got some videos and some other information on there. But he's been a public speaker, business coach, business leader for decades, and is a great guy. New York Times bestselling author of
Awesome.
some other books. But that's one of the most recent ones that I've had, and it's fantastic. And I actually wrote one of the endorsements in it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Tell us how people can find you, Adam.
Oh, I'm all over social media.
Yes, you are.
Scott. So, Remax Adam Contos. I've got a Adam Contos CEO Facebook page. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, under all those. And, of course, you can always go to startwithawin.com and check out the podcast. Would love to have you sign up and subscribe. It's on iTunes and Google Play.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been an interview with Adam Contos, CEO of Remax LLC. And don't forget for you guys to turn in and check us out, Turn the Dial podcast on iTunes and also on Spotify. And you can also check us out and follow us on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is Scott Comey with Turn the Dial.